Today I'm excited to tell you all about how I feel AI will impact the day-to-day work of product design. But to start, I want us to do a brief visualization together to get us grounded. So I need you to picture it was earlier this year and you are at a dinner party and we're seated next to each other and we start talking and ask normal things. How do you know the host? Where are you from? What's your favorite color? Etc. And I would inevitably turn the conversation to AI. I was insufferable. It's all I could think about. It's all I could talk about. And I ultimately would sound like the CEO of Google at a recent I/O event.
AI, generative AI.
That was me. Thank you. That was me. And that's the talk. Thank you. Thank you, Deepfake Drake, for that soundtrack there. But how could we not be excited? There was so much coming out at this time. We had text to images that were just blowing my mind every day. We had text to video that every day I'm seeing new stuff that I just can't imagine. Text to code, I'm not an engineer, but I know how important that was. Text to taco, but that is in beta. I hear it's great. And then we have text to text, obviously, that we're all grappling with at the moment to understand. Now, I know you all have seen the many kind of parlor tricks of what these things can do, but I'm going to give you a few more. So let's see. Let's write a haiku, although now it's outdated, but let's write a haiku about UX Strat. So here's what we got.
The best and brightest gather in Boulder this fall to share their wisdom.
All right, best and brightest. Very flattering from the AI model. Very nice. All right, let's try another one here. Create a horror Netflix series about UX Strat. Let's see what it's got. And the ghosts of UX Strat, where the dead are still designing. I feel like I could binge watch that over a weekend. Could be pretty interesting. All right, one more. Let's do create a drink inspired by the UX Strat. And here we have the UX refresher. This sounds great. And here's a photo of it. Now, I was hoping we could all enjoy it together tonight, but I have to catch an early flight. So I had AI generate what it would look like for us to drink it in the mountains together. Got a nice soundtrack. Look at how happy we are. This is unfortunate. I'm going to be missing it. Our hands are normal. Now, I'm particularly disappointed I'm not going to be there because I really wanted to meet this attendee right here. Are they out there right now? I can't see them. So my interest in all of this started actually in 2017 when at the agency I was working at, Digitas, I hosted, oh gosh, that's so tiny. I hosted a panel called The Future of Design. And some of the interesting thought leaders on the panel were talking a lot about what AI is and what's coming and how exciting it'll be. And I was planning on stealing all of their ideas as my own today, but unfortunately one of the panelists was Mike. I didn't know he was going to be here. I don't think he's here at the moment. So from there, I had this interest, so I started reading a lot, all the non-technical stuff, as much as I could to understand the history and the impact. And one book that I really got a lot from was AI and UX. Planning on stealing that as well, but it was Gavin's book who spoke yesterday, so it's stealing all of my content I was going to speak on. So I think AI will change what we design. But what I'm really more interested in and I want to talk about today is how AI will change how we design. So what are all of the different distinct tasks and responsibilities that we have as designers throughout the entire design process, and in what ways can AI come in and augment or improve or amplify our skills as designers in all those stages? So then naturally, I think the question becomes, well, how do we prepare? If this is true, then what do we do as the strategists and the designers here? When Paul recruited me to this, he said, people love frameworks. People love frameworks. It's how we remember things. So I made up my own based on what I learned this year, and also what friends are doing and my own reading. So I see 3 steps for all of us, you and your team, in order to get to a place where you can really integrate these tools properly in your workflow. So first step, just going to explore, get to know the concepts of what can be done, just at a high level, conceptually, what can these generative AI tools do? Second, I'm calling mock-up. Just make stuff. Whether it's related to your work or not, just kick the tires and see what it can do and it can't do. And then finally, I'm calling it imagine. Now that you have a sense of what these things can do, both conceptually and viscerally. Now think about what can it mean for your company and what can it mean for your individual workflows. Now, love a good mnemonic to wrap it up, so I'm going to call it Ex Machina. I think this is something that helps me. So a framework for upskilling your AI literacy, competency, and confidence. I hope you associate it with, but don't confuse it with Ex Machina from the machine. So let's walk through all these and how I see those playing out. So explore. I'd say the focus here is on AI literacy. How can you just understand what these things can do? So I know this might go against what some have said so far in the conference, but I really think it's more important to understand what generative AI can do and not necessarily how it does it. Okay, so if we have AI literacy as number one, let's talk about mock-up, and this is just experimentation. My good friend Mick Champagne, maybe some of you know her, she's kind of a name in the design world. She moonlights as an illustrator, and she has this very specific style of illustrations that are often kind of like these high contrast colors and kind of funny themes. But she wondered earlier this year, could she train a model on her imagery and then be able to, generate her own images from natural language? So she found the service online, she uploaded a bunch of her content, and then it processed them very efficiently. And at the end of it, she was able to start typing in, what do we think? So a dog in roller skates. And I remember it took her style, which you saw for a second, and it gave kind of these wonky things. Then she would do a very important one, a computer farting. I don't know what that would look like in general, but it wasn't getting it right. So she tried and tried and tried, and she kept refining and kept uploading. And then finally, on day 3, it produced this. And she said she was like stunned at the computer because she's like, I would have drawn this. This is insane. So from there, she figured out the prompting, she figured out the refinement, and ultimately, she could then keep experimenting and seeing what her style would look like with all these celebrities or different textures. And she said, at the end of it, she says, I think reframing generative AI to be a collaborator and not the enemy is the right move. So she used this personal experimentation to understand it as an artist to see, what does this mean for me and my work? So next, let's talk about Imagine. And by this, it's application, as you might think. And how do we now, if we have this foundational understanding of it, conceptually and hands-on, how can we actually use this for the products and services we're designing or for the work we're doing day to day? I want to talk more about these different pieces and kind of walk through a bunch of high-level, I know these are all made up, but use cases in which this could be done in the work we do every day. So at a very base level, write us a user research plan for a study about CPG websites. All right, and we've got some pieces that maybe are worth taking and pulling out and adding into the study we're building. Or now we need some survey questions about renting a car online. Okay, so let's get a whole bunch of survey questions. I want them on a Likert scale, make them more quantitative, and then iterate until we find something that's actually helpful. Okay, I want you to take all of these transcripts. This, when I've done studies before, is like the most annoying part for me. But summarize these transcripts into a list of major user pain points. And this just last week came out from Zoom. They're going to do something called like the AI Companion. And it's the ability to summarize all the notes at the end and give action items based on listening in on the call. What about create an executive summary from these transcripts and these survey results? This conceptually can be done. It's just a matter, I think, of putting it all together. I thought the talk yesterday about Dream GPT and how I need to look more into that. That was really great. But then what if you now have to present this to people on your team? Let's put that into a deck format. You'll see now with, Microsoft Copilot and Google Duet, they're showing the ways in which you can take this spreadsheet and turn it into this so I can share it. And I feel like that is going to be a part of the workflow too, of like, how is this helpful? Where are we going to use it? Create a persona based on our user research. So this is, again, a very simple one. But let's get an image, let's get the motivations. We have everything tied to what is in the research we've done, quantitatively, qualitatively. But something that's a little future-facing, but I think could happen, is something called silicon sampling. And there was a research paper that was put out about how they took all of these consumer insights and data points from specific to, I think it was demographics related to politics and what people think about different ideas. And they put them into this persona that then they could ask questions to it and just prompt it and say like, well, what would you think about this kind of messaging, etc. But why wouldn't that happen for us with personas in the future? To the point that we could have this.
Hi, I'm Sarah, a user persona created from the hundreds of studies you have performed. I'm happy to make my debut here at UX Strat. How's the talk so far?
Don't answer that, don't answer that. But imagine one day that you have a Zoom call and you just invite Sarah and she's there with you and you can test your assumptions and she can give you input and cited from the research. That's not that future-facing, it's not that far off. Let's do a few more. So give me 5 ways to improve the grocery store. The idea of idea generation is like one of the most common use cases and being more and more baked into the tools we use every day. FigBot, they just came out with this. It's integrated into FigJam, and it is capable of generating tons of ideas on the spot within the space that you're already working. All right, let's look at a few more. Create a storyboard for an occasional public speaker. This is highly relatable. But sometimes if I make a storyboard, I'm not an illustrator. I have to go and get someone on my team to do it. And then you could break it down and help build empathy using these simple storyboards. And this is on the horizon. On the Uber ride back to the airport, panic, unsure if his talk was coherent or if anyone liked his jokes. This is a storyboard for me in Pixar format. You've probably all seen these, this idea of finding inspiration. So generate logo ideas for a landscape architect firm. It took me longer to put this slide together than it did to generate the 12 examples here. But again, to be the gatekeeper or the reviewer, it's important that you can look at these and think, are these too similar to other ones out there? For example, when I see this one, I think it looks a lot like the Obama Foundation, and I don't want him coming for me, you know? He could probably have a cease and desist pretty quickly. Come on. All right, moving on. Let's look at illustrations for my app. Rather than going to Dribbble or the other places to get ideas, why not have them come to me and keep refining them to, if not use, but at least get inspiration for it. Same goes for mobile UI design. Where in our process, if you look, this is all gobbledygook. There's nothing great in there, and the pictures are weird, but if it gives you a sense of maybe alignment or layout, it could be pretty helpful in that space. Let's see, same with generate desktop UI inspiration. There's a lot of ways to do that now as well. And then finally, one natural one to think about is how will this be used, let's say, within Figma or Sketch. There are these different startups out there that are trying to connect these kind of text to UI design. And once you can hook that to your componentry and your design system, like what will that be for your flows and how will it move? Those are all high-level examples to get you thinking, but maybe, like, what else is there? You know, there's probably a billion other things that you do every day that could some way be helped by this. So let's do a recap here. So oh man, that meme is right. That meme is right. And okay, AI will transform what it means to design. Okay. My sub-thesis, it'll change what we design, like I had with AI Labs and the work there, and I'm sure all of your products and services, you're getting demands from either a client through the agency or your actual product team. It'll change how we design, all of the many examples I was just trying to walk you through. And then the question becomes, how can we prepare? I'm recommending my super dorky ex machina theory here as a framework for upskilling, which stands for explore, you and your team, someone on your team, to become focusing on AI literacy, bringing everyone up to speed. We have experimentation, just mocking up whatever capacity that needs, wherever in your life. And then in that experimentation, remember our 2 very important roles as the prompters and the evaluators, and how we are ensuring that what we're putting out into the world is actually worth putting out into the world. And then finally, we have imagine. How does this apply to the work we do every day, either in the how or in the what? So my hope then is that the next time I see you at some sort of dinner party, you are the one that is telling me about all the incredible applications you've had with these generative AI tools. And with any luck, I'm going to be seated next to this guy. So that's it for me. Thank you, everyone.